Welcome to Disaffected. I'm Joshua Slocum, and this is the show where we talk about politics, culture, and relationships through a psychological and snarky lens. Let's talk about President Biden's State of the Union address this week. First clip, take a listen.
We stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love of freedom, and he will never weaken the resolve of the free world.
Did you catch that? Putin may circle Kyiv. Oh, we're going to get to Kyiv later. But he'll never capture the hearts of the Iranian people. That's the show. Bye. But wait, there's actually more. This one's juicy too. Here, take a listen.
We created jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, our economy created over 6.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs in 1 year than ever before in the history of the United States of America. The economy grew at a rate of 5.7 last year, the strongest growth rate in 40 years. And the first step in bringing fundamental change to our economy that hasn't worked for working people in this nation for too long. For the past 40 years, we were told that tax break for those at the top and benefits would trickle down and everyone would benefit. But that trickle down.
The slurring. But the content. We created over 6.5 million jobs last year, the most in American history. Yeah, because you put more businesses out of business for the first time in American history. Because you fucked the economy. Because you shut things down. Because the knock-on effects of all of this bullshit about COVID are still screwing up our supply chain. It has been a year and a half since I can consistently find canned cat food. Now, I realize this is a first world problem, but this is not, it's by far not the only problem that we've been dealing with. And this is going to continue happening for a long time. Why are we supposed, I know it's the State of the Union, it's advertising, it's propaganda, but my God, the gall, the nerve to say that, the nerve to take credit for creating jobs after what this government did. There were a couple other spots in there. You know, here's one of the things he said. I don't even know if he knows what he said. I mean, we know, of course, that modern presidents don't write their own speeches. It's been generations since presidents actually had literary ability. They're written by speechwriters. They're written by a machine. There's an entire administration and apparatus behind every president. You're never just getting the guy who's elected. You're getting a machine. You're getting staff. You're getting political operatives. You're getting lobbyists. You're getting an entire package. He probably doesn't even remember anything he said because I don't think he remembers anything from morning to afternoon. But he says, let's not abandon our streets or choose between safety and equal justice. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police. It's to fund the police. And then Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi stood up behind him and clapped. And then he got a standing ovation. I couldn't see the room enough to say, I'm not sure, actually. I hope that there were some people who didn't stand up. I'm sure every single Democrat did, and some Republicans. This is exactly the shit that your administration wanted to punish the rest of us for saying for the past 2.5 damned years. If we said anything about the destruction, the looting, the arson, and the murder involved in the BLM riots around this country in 2020, we were all called racists. If we questioned Cori Bush and her, well, it wasn't just Cori Bush. It was so many of them, the Squad, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, all wanting to defund the police so that we could reimagine justice with, well, they claimed with social workers, but I think what they really meant was nobody gets in trouble for anything if they're brown-skinned or in my constituency. But now, I know, folks, I know, viewers. I understand what's happening. I know it's about polls. I'm expressing irritation and exasperation. I'm not expressing bafflement. I do understand why this happens. I just don't like it. And I don't think I had a clip of this for you. I should have. But my favorite, gaffe. They call them gaffes. Joe Biden is a gaffe machine. These aren't just gaffes. They're not just mistakes. They're, to me, pretty clear evidence of mental decline. Quote, you can't build a wall high enough. I have to stop before I even finish the quote. They can't let go of Donald Trump. They can't let go. They have to get a reference in there. You can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. Sure feels that way. I've been trying, honey. You can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread of these diseases. No, it can't. Now you're just lying. We all know that people who've been vaccinated are transmitting COVID just as much as those who haven't been vaccinated. Lie, lie, lie. But the best part wasn't Joe Biden. It was Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. This is a very short clip. I'll describe it to you after I play it here on the screen.
Pits. Many of you have been there. Iraq and Afghanistan.
Oh my God. She is such a super freak. You guys, again, I love you. I love you that you consume the show in any form. But if you are just listening to me right now on your AirPods, oh, for God's sake, please hop over to a video channel. Go to Rumble, go to Odyssey, go to YouTube, and look at that. You have got to see this. It's that funny. Pelosi is sitting behind. I got a couple of things to say about her. Number one, how does this woman look 20 years younger this week during the State of the Union address than she did 2 weeks ago? Makeup can't do that. Believe me, I know what makeup can and can't do. I've been trying. How is this possible? What kind of sorcery is going on? It's weird. But she's standing behind Biden, and she gets up. She starts to get up, and she's got her hands with her fingers held in, and she's rubbing them. She's rubbing them with this gleeful toddler's look on her face. And I'm sitting there thinking, she looks like a kid who's watching mom take that can of Pillsbury biscuits and bash it on the edge of the counter because she knows there's about to be flaky layers up in here. She is excited for flaky layers, honey. Oh my God. I showed this to a friend of mine, and she said, she's just glitching out. I said, what do you mean? They're all robots. You know, it's like the Stepford Wives. They're just glitching out. Do-si-do, do-si-do. I thought we were friends. I wonder how many of those they've got charging in the wall right now. How many Pelosi's? So people were discussing, like, what is she doing? And one person on Twitter said that she was about to climax. And of course, someone else said, that is a very disrespectful thing to say about a woman her age. And the guy came back with, granny panties get wet too. Which made me think, this is for you Gen Xers out there. Maybe, just maybe, granny panties get wet too. Do 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 do. Samantha Fox. Okay. let's get to the really important part of this first segment, which is, as always, how trans women are hit hardest by anything that happens. Listen to this piece from CBS News.
Sometimes
very sad music.
It's just all a dream that we stuck inside some kind of a video game, because you just you live in a quiet society, and then you hear bombings, and then you wake up to the sound of bombings. I don't want to go outside. I'm literally scared for my life. All my friends left the city. My neighbors left my floor, and I think my building.
This is about trans women being hit hardest by the war in the Ukraine.
This is not a very rainbow-friendly place. So lives for trans people are very bleak here.
She's worried if she can make it to the border, if she'll be allowed to cross.
They will not let you go abroad. They will not let you through.
Ukrainian law mandates transgender people undergo extensive psychiatric observation before changing gender on legal documents, is what the text says.
Every noise from outside is a warning sign. It was hell living as a trans person in Kiev, in Ukraine. We feel invisible, truly. Like we're not people, like we're not human. It's truly how we feel.
You know, really, my criticism of this is mostly at CBS News, not at this young man who calls himself a woman. If you can't see it, they're just panning across a bombed out apartment building over and over again, showing rubble, and then cutting back and forth to an interview with the subject who's speaking. Man who looks about, 25 years old, wearing a blonde wig and makeup. Now, everybody who lives in a war zone is scared. This guy is scared, I'm sure. There's nothing unreasonable about that. Everybody, I don't care what sex you are, I don't care what gender you think you have, everybody there is scared right now. Everyone is trying to decide what to do. Do I escape? Do I stay? Do I fight? I don't know what I would do. And I'm glad that I don't have to make that choice. And I'm sorry for this guy. I'm sorry for everybody there. These are reasonable fears. But it veers into the unreasonable, it seems to me. And maybe this is the framing by CBS News. Did you know, the pensive, sort of sad music, the atmospherics, they just could not help themselves. They could not help themselves but to say, I have a friend on Twitter who every time a story comes up about a tragedy, his throwaway comedy line is "trans women hit hardest," because that's basically the way the media is these days. In order for us to truly understand the humanity of a disaster anywhere, we have to talk about how it affects a trans woman. Okay, so this guy says it's a difficult place to live in if you're what he calls trans, gender nonconforming, whatever. I don't care how he lives his life. If he wants to wear the wig and the makeup, that's fine. But you're saying you don't want to go to the border and you're afraid to go to the border because you think you won't be allowed to leave. Do I really have to state the obvious here? If you are trying to flee a war-torn country, take the fucking wig and makeup off. Take your passport with you that has your correct sex on it. Be a man. Get out, and then do what you want to do on the other. Are you serious? Are you seriously telling me you're not trying to escape because you won't take the drag off? I can't take that seriously. Can you? I would do anything to get out of a place like that if I felt my life were in danger. People have done anything. They've dressed up as the opposite sex. They've disguised themselves as cleaning staff. You do anything you can to get out of there. This is nuts. I don't have anything more to say about that. I'm sorry for him. I'm sorry for all of them. But something's not adding up here. And now I'm going to tell you about some bad customer service, which originally I wasn't going to tell you about because Kevin and I were talking about whether I talk about that too much. But some other people were like, no, it happens to all of us. So I'm going to talk about it anyway. And this is a good time to plug why I was trying to buy a plane ticket. So on April 23rd, there's going to be a one-day conference that's put the Better Discourse Conference. It's put on by a nonprofit called Myth Informed. Myth like Greek myth, Myth Informed. Look it up online. I'm going to be there. Actress Nikki Klein will be there. James Lindsay will be there. A bunch of very well-known people whose names are escaping me right now but are well-known to you are going to be there. I will be on a panel. Oh, Blair White, the transsexual Blair White will be on the panel that I'm on to talk about the question, is it possible to be born in the wrong body? So this ought to be really, really interesting. And it's in Dallas-Fort Worth. It happens on Saturday, April 23rd. So I'm trying to book my ticket. And I go to one of the aggregator sites. I pick an itinerary by JetBlue. I get all the way through the whole thing. I filled out my name. I've done all the credit card information. I turned the card over, did the 3-digit code, did all the it's tedious to fill all this stuff out. I get all the way to the end and I press book now and I get an error message back that says, we can't process your transaction. Please contact us so that we can sort this out. So I decided I'll wait a couple of days and try again. I went back and did the same thing 2 or 3 days later, same result. The first day I was going to call customer service, but they said it's going to be a 1.5 hour wait. So when I tried this and had the same result the second time, this time was like a 45-minute to an hour wait. I decided to wait on their live chat. This is what went down. Remember, I did everything correctly. JetBlue's own website told me to contact them to sort it out. So I was following the directions JetBlue wanted me to follow. I got Caitlin on the line because, of course, I did. And it started right out irritating me a little bit because of how brusque she was. I know this is a generational difference to some degree, but I actually think it's a rudeness difference to some degree. I can tell I'm speaking to a Zoomer or a very young millennial because they don't greet you. They don't say, how are you? They don't use any softeners. They don't use please and thank you. They speak in commands or in sentence fragments. So, I'm trying to explain this to her and I get back from her, can you get me the flight info? Can you get me the flight info? I don't even know what that means. So I said, are you asking me to go back and re-begin the booking process and find flight numbers for you? Or are you asking me something different? And I got this garbled answer back. Tried to explain. She's like, well, we're not having any problems with our website. I said, okay, I understand, but I'm telling you the truth that this was my experience. I'm being truthful with you when I tell you that I can't do this and I need your help. Well, you're going to have to rebook, Caitlin says. I go back and I try really hard to be polite. I mean, I say please and thank you. I use sir and ma'am. I don't care if you don't like that. Most people do consider it polite. And I said, ma'am, I can't rebook because the reason I'm talking to you is that I can't book at all. This is, again, I'll tell you quickly what happened with the site. So you see, I actually can't do that and I need your help. Will you please help me? I can book it for you, but there'll be a $25 fee. That's exactly what she wrote. It just like these balds. And I said, but I'm following the directions on the site. I didn't do something wrong. There's something going on with the site. I heard you that you say JetBlue's not experiencing problems, and I believe you that that's your experience. I'm asking you to believe me when I tell you that this has been my experience. Something that we both don't know about is going on here, and could you please help me sort this out? Yeah, but there will be a fee. And I said, you're telling me that because your website won't book me and tells me to contact you, that I have to pay extra for something I'm trying to do myself? Yeah. May I speak to a supervisor, or may I speak to someone with more authority, please? I don't have the ability to transfer you, but you can call customer service. I said, do you know there's an hour and a half wait there? I get nothing back. The whole thing was really, really unpleasant. She went through the dance of, have you tried dumping your cache and restarting your... I mean, it was not my cache. It's not my computer. End of the story is, I went back to another aggregator site a few... Caitlin tells me once she gets into her computer, the reason why it wouldn't let you book is because there's no seats on the connecting flight. And I said, now do you believe me? Do you believe me that I wasn't lying to you and that it was not my mistake? Yeah, but I mean, you're going to have to pick a different itinerary. And I said, why is JetBlue advertising the itinerary? If there aren't seats, why are you asking me and enticing me and saying, pick your seat on this flight, enter your credit card info? So can you just please book it for me? Oh my God. I had to leave the chat because I didn't lose my temper. I didn't swear, but I was about to. So I closed the window. Go back a few days later to a different aggregator. I find the same itinerary, so just for shits and giggles, and it was $200 cheaper, still JetBlue, same flights, same times, same connections. There's seats on all of them. No problem at all. And I got it $200 cheaper than I saw it on JetBlue's site. Oh, you guys, what I would give just to go back 25 years, just to have people at the level of politeness and just reasonable human behavior that we had 25 years ago. Time for a break. But before we do, I want to remind you, please subscribe on audio. We are doing 3 shows a week. I only did 2 last week because something came up, but we're doing 3 half-hour shows a week that you will not get here on YouTube. You won't get it on Rumble or Odyssey. And I'm talking about things that in addition to what I talk about on the show. It's a little bit more free form. I've just got 1 or 2 topics on there. Kevin made an appearance last week. If you've been curious about Kevin, he was on 2 episodes back to back. You need to subscribe through your podcast app. I can't give you a link or send you to a site. It's distributed like all podcasts are. So iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Pandora, Google Podcasts. Subscribe. See you on the other side of the break. You know how podcasters are always asking you to hit the subscribe button? Well, this is us asking you to take a minute right now and be sure you've hit subscribe on your favorite video platform. Click that notification bell too so you never miss our newest content. And don't forget to subscribe on audio too. We have audio-only content that you won't find on any video platform, so don't miss out. Do you like Disaffected? Do you like it enough to help pay for it? We'd love to have your support to grow and maintain this show. Donors get special access to our monthly Zoom Hangouts. They're off-camera and unscripted. We talk about what you want to talk about. There are 2 ways to join. Patreon users can go to patreon.com/disaffected or visit subscribestar.com/disaffected. Twitter didn't like our old account, so we made a new one. Follow @disaffectedp, that's disaffected and the letter P, for show announcements and links. If you want our sass and snark, come see us on Getter at disaffectedpod.
Hi, Chucky Milk.
Don't you touch my Chucky Milk.
It's my Chucky Milk.
Chunky milk. Okay, why am I showing you this clip? This girl could be anywhere from 16 years old to 19 years old. I don't know if she's a minor or if she's an adult. But if you can't see her, she's in a car. She's morbidly obese, very young. She's wearing a huge, bright tie-dye rainbow t-shirt. She's got metal in her face around her mouth, piercings. In each of her ears, she's got a great big day-glow yellow hoop earring. And she has one that looks like it's twice that size that is going through the septum of her nose. You could attach a collar to it and literally lead her around by the nose. She's got rainbow-colored hair. I'm not making fun of her. I want to know, what the fuck is going on that we have so many children like this? Why is this young woman or teenager so morbidly obese? Why is her hair this color? Why has she been allowed to put what looks like up to 10 or 15 holes in her face and her nose? She looks absolutely ridiculous. This is not just how teenagers... I wanted to dye my hair. I got in trouble for dyeing my hair when I was a teenager. That was the rebellion, getting my ears pierced and dyeing my hair. Frankly, I think my generation of parents and caregivers were way too upset about that. That was controversial. You know that children dye their hair. 16-year-olds can't dye their hair, especially not boys. I think they went way overboard with it. But I mean, that's as far as it went for most of us. Well, for some of us, like a lot of my friends and me for a little while, you know, you had the black eyeliner because you had to be a sad goth. That's about it. These kids, though, today, this is trauma. I don't need to know anything about this girl in detail to know what is obvious. This girl comes from trauma. She's not been brought up right. She's not being brought up right now. There's something seriously wrong with being that excessively obese at her age and all of these identity markers, and I'm sure she's been pulled right into the trans cult. This is just considered normal now. This is the sort of stuff you see on TikTok every single day by the hundreds of thousands. I find it very sad. Let's move on to the Ukraine. Oh, am I canceled now? Did you hear me? I just used the definite article, the Ukraine. Maybe I can make other people mad and talk about the Congo too, because that means I'm racist. It's incredible. COVID appears to be socially disappearing in some ways. Imagine that. Imagine that. Burlington, Vermont just lifted its mask mandate. A bunch of other towns are doing it. I hear that LA lifted its vax mandate and its masking rules. I see this going on in some other places. All on social media, a whole bunch of people that were nothing but COVID, 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 COVID are all Ukraine, 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 blue and yellow colors, Ukraine flag in the profile field, Ukraine, 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 Ukraine. Can't you just support the Ukrainian people? I think I said this on the audio show. Kevin and I are talking about, doing a show where we talk about what happens after woke, right? Because fashions change. I'm not sure there's going to be an after woke in the foreseeable future. I think it might look different, but I think it's very possible that what we're seeing right now is what after woke is going to look like. No difference in the emotion, the virtue signaling, the instability, the social predation against people who won't buckle down and fly the flag you want them to fly. They're just going to change topics. If my thesis is right, and my thesis is that we have a numerically higher percentage of people with cluster B personality disorders or a heavy dose of cluster B traits in our society than we did 30 years ago, that isn't simply going to change because COVID. Because COVID wasn't about COVID. It's about narcissism, control, and a sick and perverted relationship between citizens and their government. And in loco parentis relationship, a totalitarian relationship. It's not about COVID. It could have been anything. Now it's Ukraine. Now everybody on the left has to support Ukraine. Obviously, I don't like seeing countries invaded. I don't like seeing citizens terrorized. I simply don't know enough about the geopolitics of that situation to comment and say anything very intelligent beyond, I'm really sorry this is happening, and I can well imagine what it feels like to live there. Here's, again, thank you, libs of TikTok. You're an account that just keeps on giving. Here is the first virtue signal I'm going to share with you. This is from a bar in the Philadelphia area. The account says they're now trying to change the name of the Moscow Mule, which is an alcoholic drink. My name is redacted. I live in redacted. If you are receiving this email, you own or work for a local restaurant or bar that sells a cocktail that goes by the name Moscow Mule. I recognize that this might be a ridiculous way to spend my Saturday night, but considering the recent horrific events that have taken place, here comes the voice, and the innocent people who are dying by the hands of people in power in Moscow, I'm proposing a change of name for this cocktail. Wouldn't it be neat if we all agreed that this lovely ginger, beer, lime, and vodka drink was no longer deserving of being named after the capital of a country led by a warmongering narcissist? I recognize that this might be a ridiculous way to spend my Saturday. Then why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? Yes, it is a ridiculous way to spend your Saturday night. It's a ridiculous way to spend your Monday morning. It is a ridiculous and stupid way to spend any of your time. Next, the famous restaurant in New York City, the Russian Tea Room. Business plummeting. People are just walking right out because it's the Russian Tea Room and they serve Russian food and Russia bad. A Russian restaurant in Austin, Texas. Of course, it's Austin. Where else would it be? The rest of Texas wouldn't put up with this shit. Has changed its name and advertised this on social media. That's the point. Look at the good I do. Look at the good I do. Change its name from Russia House to House. And they claimed this was to honor Ukrainians. Let's go to House tonight. I think I'll have a bowl of Bush. No, you can't have that. It's Russian food. And of course, Kyiv. Talked about this last time. Everybody pretending that they haven't pronounced the word Kiev their entire lives, and they're all acting like it is a moral duty to pronounce it the Ukrainian way now rather than the Russian way, because that will help somebody. Maybe it'll help that trans woman who's too scared to cross the border and won't take the wig off. But here's our friend, our famous trans woman friend. I don't, Tiffany somebody. Put this up on the screen, Kevin, please. It is Kyiv. Kyiv. So from the ridiculous to the ridiculous but unfortunately powerful, we have New York Governor Kathy Hochul, Disney villainess in chief, praising herself on social media with this. Today, I signed an executive order directing state agencies to stop doing business with Russian entities. We stand firmly with Ukraine and condemn Putin's actions. There's a picture of her signing it. Oh, my God. Kevin, there's not going to be any after woke. Oh, I can't wait. And you're going to be on this show, too. He's sitting there in the control room right now. He's not talking to me in my earpiece, so I'm taking advantage of this. It's going to be you and me talking about after woke, because I don't think there's going to be any after woke. Let's look at some more silliness. So, Democratic operative and consultant David Axelrod. This is just one example. I've seen thread after thread after thread of things like what I'm going to show you. So he says, it may be irrational, but I don't want to turn the TV off and lose connection with what's going on in Ukraine. As if by going to sleep, I'm abandoning the valiant people facing down a huge invading army to save their country and democracy. Kill me now. I feel it. Well, you may feel that way, but that's not how it is. You're not abandoning anybody because you're not doing any. You're not there, David. You're in your bed. And you're probably not even watching the TV. You're just figuring out what tweets to put out there to make people think you care about this. You should see the rest of the thread. This is from a Twitter mutual named Theo Jordan. He's a very keen observer of this sort of thing too. He says about this thread, you have to scroll through these replies. COVID compulsion has become Ukraine compulsion. Same maniacal, emotion-fueled hysteria. Then it just becomes the next chapter of weaponized empathy. The American psyche is shattered. Broken brains, disgusting to witness. They crave the next MFP. I don't know what MFP means, but Theo will probably tell me later. So here's an example of a reply to Axelrod. Is it odd that I didn't think other adults were doing this? I feel like I'm being childish in sort of believing that if I watch and stay vigilant, I can help protect them. And I feel guilt for being able to do normal things. Suppose it has to do with the immediacy of the social media age. Yeah, it has something to do with that, for sure. A lot to do with it. And yeah, it is. You are being a little childish. It's childish in a way that a lot of people fall into. You know, I can't say there are people I know and like and love who have fallen into this, and I know that I used to fall into this for lefty categories lefty causes all the time. This feeling guilt for being able to do normal things is a complete waste of time. It's more than a waste of time. It's almost anti-time. It's almost like it's eating up extra time because it does nothing for you as a person, but it also does nothing for the people that you're ruminating about. You know, if you are truly feeling moved to do something concrete and material to help people in a country experiencing war, do some research, find some charities that you can see exactly what they do with your money. They bring a food box, or they bring hygienic supplies, first aid supplies, clothes for children, toys, tampons for women. There are all sorts of charities that bring actual nuts and bolts, life sustenance things to people. You can give money to them, and they'd appreciate it. That's what you can do to help. Another response in the thread. Me too. I woke up at 2:30 in the morning, only 2 hours of sleep. I just can't turn this off. Doing anything else seems like I'm abandoning them. See, it's very familiar. This can't be healthy. I keep praying for a miracle. I give some credit here. People seem to be at least a little bit self-aware that what they're doing probably isn't healthy and probably isn't productive. Yet they feel compelled to continue having this conversation in public. I mean, let me give you another one. Quote, I'm waking up 2 to 3 times in the night, turning on the TV to make sure there's still a sovereign nation, then going back to a fitful sleep and feeling guilty for being safe in my bed. What about whether the United States stays a sovereign nation, or a nation that's worth living in, a sovereign nation that's worth living in, an actual constitutional republic, rather than something with increasingly authoritarian tendencies and norms that are getting baked in? We have problems at home, very big, very, very deep problems. We need to work on them here. I can't tell anybody else what to do, but I would say to people who find themselves so emotionally invested or distracted by what's going on in Ukraine to consider that, please. Consider moving your attention locally. What's happening in your town? What's happening in your state policy-wise? What can you actually affect in the sphere of influence that includes people that you actually physically run into or live with? You could do a lot more good that way. Another one. I was thinking the same thing. Working all day with one eye on the TV as if somehow I am aiding the cause, and if I turn away, democracy could slip away. Oh, stop it. Stop it. I'm going to make fun of you because that's ridiculous. If I turn away, democracy could slip away. It's like little children. Put your hands over your eyes. I can't see it. Can't see it. So there's that. And I'm going to return to the topic of normalizing child abuse and normalizing Munchausen syndrome by proxy. I'm going to talk about this as many times as I have to talk about this on the show until this shit stops happening. It is no less upsetting to me. I don't care that I've done it on another episode. It's going to continue to be a topic because it's still going on and it's being normalized even more every single day. Munchausen syndrome by proxy, if you haven't heard of it before, is the alleged syndrome where a caregiver, almost always a mother, literally sickens her child or an invalid that she's caring for by poisoning them or in some way screwing with them to induce an illness that they would not have. Why would she do that? Because she gets attention for being Mother of the Year, the sainted put upon mother with the desperately ill child. The worst cases of this, the most severe cases, actually end up with the child being killed. The less severe cases, it's all abuse, but the child is being poisoned or being fed in a way that leads to malnutrition. This woman here, her name is Rachel Kammeyer, MACCSLP. I think that's Masters of Art. She appears to be, I went to her website, she's a language therapist, for goodness sake. And here she is in a picture on Twitter with an N95 mask over her mouth. I wonder if she wears that mask when she's doing speech therapy with people. I wonder how that works out. Here's the picture is her sitting there with an infant less than 1 year old on her lap, her child. And here's what she wrote. Parents of kids under 5 are desperate for baby vaccinations. We are fortunate our infant is now in the Pfizer clinical trial, but the U.S. FDA has made this moment bittersweet. Trials seem never-ending. Moderna, Texas vaccine review, and the schools are lifting masks. Hashtag immunize under 5s. No, sweetheart, I don't think that most parents are desperate for vaccinations for children under 5. Why? COVID doesn't kill babies and children. You're waiting for my qualifier, aren't you? Yeah. Except in really rare cases with comorbidity, and there have been some deaths. There, are you happy? To a close approximation, children are immune to COVID. Desperately small numbers of children, all of whom that I know about had serious other illnesses who died of COVID, does not make this not true. Rachel isn't desperate for vaccinations for her baby under 5. Rachel is desperate for attention, and she's willing to sacrifice her infant to do so. Let me read to you what's on that baby's shirt. We are going to be the kids you read about in textbooks. Yeah, textbooks about child abuse and social hysteria. Not the textbooks you think about, Rachel. This is about Rachel needing to be seen as a hero through her defenseless, innocent child that she's putting into a clinical trial for a vaccine that children do not need. There are risks and dangers. This is a trial. Why would you do this? Why is Rachel confident enough to post this on social media without fear that she will be socially shunned, as she should be, without fear that people will call Child Protective Services, which they should, without fear that Child Protective Services will even investigate, which they won't, because now Munchausen's by proxy is normal. This is not, no. This is not like signing kids up for a trial for the Salk polio vaccine. If anybody out there is thinking that, get it out of your head. COVID-19 is not polio to children. Polio was a real fear. Many of you may know people who've had polio. I do. I have friends who had polio before the vaccine was available. Some of them, you'd never know it. Some of them have a pronounced limp. Some have other effects that have stayed with them for the rest of their lives. But it used to be called infantile paralysis because the worst cases would literally paralyze the child to the point where even their diaphragm was paralyzed. This is where iron lungs came from. You had to have a machine to breathe for you. COVID-19 is not polio. This is not normal. This should not be hard to see, and actually it isn't hard to see. Anyone can see that this is insane. But we actively applaud deranged behaviors, and it is my contention that Munchausen syndrome by proxy is not a standalone illness. I believe that it is a symptom expression of borderline and histrionic personality disorders. Shouldn't be hard to see. We're going to take a break, but I'm going to ask you a favor. Would you share our show on social media? We've been around for a year and a couple of months, but we are still fledgling and we're still trying to go. So please share us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever it is you spend the most time. And if you can't do that, if you feel nervous about that because you're still undercover a little bit and you don't want to be associated with the bad people like us, I do kind of get it. Share it privately with one friend. Word of mouth really helps. Thanks, folks. See you on the other side. You know how podcasters are always asking you to hit the subscribe button? Well, this is us asking you to take a minute right now and be sure you've hit subscribe on your favorite video platform. Click that notification bell too so you never miss our newest content. And don't forget to subscribe on audio too. We have audio only content that you won't find on any video platform, so don't miss out. Twitter didn't like our old account, so we made a new one. Follow @disaffectedp, that's disaffected and the letter P, for show announcements and links. If you want our sass and snark, come see us on Getter @disaffectedpod. Welcome back. My first pitch here is to ask you for money. Would you give us some money? I would. I'd give us money so hard. We'd love to have your support. It does cost money to run the show, and we are putting out more content than before. We've got our our Sunday TV show that you see, and our 3 audio podcasts during the week, and we would love, love, love to have your support. 2 ways to do it. Patreon.com/disaffected or subscribestar.com/disaffected. Get in now because we're having a hangout for financial supporters only. They happen on Zoom. They're not recorded. They're private. We talk and get to know each other. Happening on March 20th. So if you want to get in on that, sign up today. Thank you. So, of course, as COVID mania appears to be in recession, we'll see. I'm not sure that it's not going to come roaring back. But we knew that there were going to be people who did not want to let go of this. They're going to break along different lines. I suspect that most people in their behavior this way are, in fact, sheep-like. They're going to go along with what the majority is doing. They're not going to give a lot of thought to it. They may not even, they may not even be that personally, emotionally invested in things like fear of COVID or safety. They may just be going along because they want to meet social expectations. But there is a smaller group, not so small that they can be ignored, my friends, not a teeny tiny minority, but a smaller group who is going to fight this tooth and nail because they like the world that we've lived in the past 2 years. They've been able to be victims. They've been able to emote in public and have everybody cry tears of sympathy for them and tell them what a good daddy they are for making sure that their kids wear an N95 and all this stuff. They have been rolling around like pigs in shit getting plaudits for this behavior, and they do not want to let it go. And some of them are all the way into full clinical diagnosable hypochondria. Maybe they didn't have it before. Maybe they had tendencies that were kept in check. But those guardrails were taken down with the way we responded to COVID, and they've tipped all the way over, and they cannot think straight right now. They're not actually thinking. They don't know it. And I know this because I've been in that position with other issues. They don't know that they're not thinking, but they're not. They're only emoting. Who's leading the charge? Of course, it's NPR. About how to keep masking in a world that just doesn't seem to care anymore. Well, before we get to NPR, I'll give you an example of one of these people. It's an example. There are thousands of them. And you will notice some of the trademark characteristics of this set of people. There's a lot of overlap with a lot of issues. So here we have a tweet from somebody who calls herself, maybe it is her name, Anne Santori. Now, Anne, on her profile, has cartoon emojis, because that's, of course, what adults do. There are 3 vaccine syringes, because 1 is not enough. Maybe that means, you got to get at least 3 or not fully vaccinated. And she's got an emoji of a face with a mask on it. Here's what she says. This is what I'm so worried about. Will one-way masking be enough when working with the public every day? I am 3 times vaxxed, and we have good ventilation systems and portable air purifiers, but I'm so afraid and wondering if I should just resign. Yes, resign, Anne. Never leave your house again. Seriously, resign. I'd like to see you resign from your job. Take a look at Anne. This is the picture that she uses to show her face to the world. Not her face. What would be her face? Here is a woman. I can't tell how old she is because most of everything is obscured, but I'm going to guess it's between 25 and 35 because I know my white liberal women. She is wearing a full face shield that is decorated with all sorts of dipsy doodle cartoons. And at the top in the center of this face shield, she's got a goddamn rainbow unicorn horn. Now, before I tell you, why don't you make yourself a little short list in your head of what job you think Miss Anne Santori does? Time's up. Of course she's a librarian. Here's her bio. Early literacy specialist librarian, SL Journal reviewer, author, creator of Happening Inside Your Head. Oh, I should check that out. So should she. Co-creator and contributor to kitchensinkra.com website. And, of course, the most important part, she, her. She's a sure. She's got her pronouns. So, what boxes have we checked here? 1, young female. 2, librarian working with children. Number 3, 3 vaccine syringe emojis in her profile. 4, childlike, clown-like profile image with face shield, face paint, finger painting, and unicorn rainbow horn. Pronouns. I mean, it's just... the traditionally female fields are so screwed up right now. Nursing, teaching, libraries. And it's troubling because teachers, librarians were not like this at all when I was a kid. They were nothing like this. Nothing. I mean, and it isn't just that they dressed like adults. They did. These people don't. They dress like children because they want to be the children's friends. Because in some senses, they are children. They're emotionally stunted, these people. They're not fully grown up. But teachers and librarians, I have always loved librarians. The librarian was one of the people when I was a little kid. One of the things I could do to escape was to go to the library. I had a library card and I would spend hours. I'd spend all Saturday if I were allowed to, going through the stacks at the library, reading quietly in a corner. I'd always find a room where there's nobody else there and I'd go into the smallest little corner and read my book. God, it was great. And most of the librarians were really kind to me. They'd found themselves a bookish boy who wanted to learn and read everything, and they suggested things, and they did interlibrary loans. And librarians, and all through college, these are people who specialize in organizing information. They do things that a Google search can't do. They have judgment. They have experience, broad experience, A librarian can point you in a direction that no simple search with a card catalog or with the internet can possibly do. I miss this. I miss this competence in teachers and librarians. We had no idea who our teachers were outside of work. We might know that they were married because they, with female names, we'd know if it was Miss or Mrs. Once in a while, once in a great, great while, you might run into one of your teachers out with their family. And it always felt a little bit weird because, like, they're here in the real world and politely acknowledge them, but that was it. Those boundaries made a difference, right? It was professional. It was a professional relationship geared down to the child-adult interaction. It's all gone now. They're all children. But if you're younger, and I know we have some younger people in the audience who, I know I rag on young people a lot. I don't take any of it back. I'm sorry, I don't. But I know you're not all carbon copies of each other. And I know that we have some viewers and listeners who are much younger than I am and who see this in their own generation and are just as frustrated. And what I want to say to you is you're not crazy. And it really is true that it used to be different. And it can be different. This isn't the way the world has to be. And it's got to be tough for you guys. It's irritating enough for me, but for that to be your actual peer group has got to be a real frustration. So now let's get to NPR. This is a story about how to keep masking and how to correctly one-way mask in an increasingly maskless world. Headline, I'm a one-way masker. What strategy will give me optimal protection? Introductory cartoon, because of course everything is cartoons now, even for adults. You're going to want to pause your screen and just study the wonder that is this mess. So it is drawn. All the people are in here. This is very crudely done. This is not a person who has talent. It's not even good cartooning talent at a simple level. It's crude and childlike. It's about what you'd expect from a 12 or 13-year-old. Again, very common aesthetic these days for adults. It says, feeling awkward in your mask? How to stay cool. Advice from epidemiologist Charlotte Baker. And Charlotte is the woman of color right in the middle, and they pointed to her. It's Charlotte Baker, and there's an arrow so that you can see that it's a woman of color with a mask on. Because of course. So. So we got a picture here of two women without masks on who are laughing with each other. Ha, ha, ha. And poor Charlotte, our epidemiologist, is sitting there with well, I think it's supposed to be her sweat, but a competent artist would have put the sweat dripping down her face rather than dripping onto her head. I don't know what I'm supposed to take from this. But you know what you need to take from this artist? You need to go back in time 50 years and get a matchbook. And inside that matchbook, there would be an advertisement for art school, and you could send away for the free catalog. They would teach you how to draw. You should do that. On the other side of her, there are two other people. One is eating a food, and the other one is eating a coffee. And our epidemiologist, yikes, I'm the only one in a mask. So here's the advice. Number one, ignore people. Picture of people talking to each other with spray coming out of their mouths like it was, they were a biocontaminant. And she's sitting there, Charlotte, with an angry look on her face, angry looking at them. Stay calm, she says to herself. It's not my beeswax. Well, that's good. That's a good first step if you can control yourself that much. But honestly, you shouldn't be getting to that emotional state anyway. This should not make you frown. You should not be staring at these people. That's not normal. Number two, focus on the task at hand, then get out of there, exclamation point. Get out of the grocery store because it's dangerous. Milk, eggs, bread, I'm out. It's her thought bubble. Number three, remember why you're wearing a mask in the first place. And we got Charlotte pointing to herself. So listen to a woman of color. I'm wearing this mask to keep me and my fam safe. Oh, piss off. My fam. Adults using stupid child lingo. Fam. Don't ever say fam to me. Don't ever call me fam. I don't care if you are my family. Don't call me fam. I'm 47 years old. Speak to me in English. So, of course, this is from an epidemiologist. Of course, it's crude, talentless drawing. Of course, it features a woman of color. I mean, and of course, it uses Dayute speak. Here's the article itself. Pulled you some juicy bits. I've probably said this before. I got to say it again. These borderline glasses, I'm not taking them on and off to give you a dramatic visual like they do in movies where people take off their glasses and it makes no sense. I'm actually doing it because even though it doesn't matter, if I have these on, I can't see anything beyond 3 feet in front of me. It's all blurry and it drives me nuts. But I can't read anything closer to me if I don't have them on. So anyway, thank you for indulging me. I'm a one-way masker. What strategy will give me optimal protection? Beginning of the article. Lots of people are giving up masks in public places. Maybe they think the pandemic is over. Maybe they're putting their faith in vaccines. Maybe they're just tired of masking. But I still want to mask up when I'm around others. Omicron is out there. Infections can happen if you're vaccinated. Oh, are you allowed to say that? Because I'm not. Is one-way masking, wearing a mask, helpful in any way? They acknowledge it right here. That nobody knows what that term means because it's ridiculous. One-way masking. She had to put it inside M dashes. What does it mean? It means wearing a mask. I'm a one-way masker. Put that in your Grindr profile then. It can be lonely out there as the solo masker in a sea of exposed chins and noses. This woman is one of the ones who would have been putting skirts on piano legs so that the men didn't get titillated by a little bit of turned wood ankle. Next quote. And there's no getting around the fact that having everyone wear a mask cuts down the risk of spreading the coronavirus in a public space much more effectively than a scattershot approach. No, it doesn't. Quote, one-way masking isn't doing that, says Kristen Coleman, an assistant research professor at the University of Maryland School of Public Health. We're not maximizing the benefits of masks if only a proportion of the population wears them. And that just drives you crazy, doesn't it, Kristen? Too bad. Masks don't work. This is bullshit. This has been shown. CDC's own studies show it. You're lying, and you know you're lying. The question for me is to everybody else, why are we putting up with you lying? Did they teach you how to lie in public health school? No, I'm serious. Is there actually a discussion in master's programs for public health about when it's acceptable to lie to people? Because y'all do a lot of fucking lying every single day. I have anti-respect for epidemiologists and people in public health because I see the prominent famous ones lying. Few more pieces. You know what? I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you visually how masks don't work. This is an e-cigarette. It's a nicotine vaporizer. Watch this. Kevin, did that read on camera? Did that smoke read? Okay, I'm going to do it again. That's how masks don't work. You don't need a study. You don't need a master's or a PhD in public health. You don't need blinded trials. All you need is a basic understanding of physics and the common sense that any of us used to have. This is stupid. That thing cost me $9.99 too, and I resent it. So, a little more advice. If it's pouring outside, would you throw on a cotton hoodie and expect to stay dry? The same principle applies to masks and pathogens. Pick the best mask. Of course, they don't want you to wear the cloth masks because they've moved on to N95s. But this is what most people are wearing, and nobody's... Let me just go on. Let me follow my script. Quote, the only thing I recommend is something like an N95 respirator, says Lisa Brousseau, a bioaerosol scientist and industrial hygienicist who's a consultant for the University of Minnesota Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy. Next one. Of course, any kind of protection is better than nothing at all. If you have no other options, surgical masks are better than cloth masks because the material has electrostatic charge to trap incoming particles. It's like my Fuller carpet sweeper, says Abrar Karan, an infectious disease physician at Stanford University. But if you're serious, don't count on them to keep you safe when most people nearby are unmasked. Protection from what? What has become a cold? Listen to this. Expert Karan has taken care of hundreds of COVID-19 patients over the past 2 years and knows how well N95s work, even if you're face-to-face with a contagious unmasked person. Quote, I've been very close to them while they were coughing and weren't able to wear masks, and I never got COVID from a patient, he says. Wait a minute. That's an anecdote. That's not a scientific study. Why is your anecdote data while my anecdote isn't? Why is our common sense crazy, but yours isn't? Why are you allowed to say things I'm not allowed to say without consequence? Your doctor. This is the best part. I pulled out way more here than I can share with you, but this whole thing goes on and on and on. And they talk to expert after expert about how you have to have an N95 and how it has to fit right. And, you know, you're going to have to step up to protect yourself because more and more people aren't protecting other people. Of course, NPR is crazy. But this is my favorite part. The only real downside of wearing an N95 is that some models can compress your face, pinch your nose, and make it hard to breathe. That's it. That's the only downside. I know. Speaks for itself. Speaks for itself. I'm going to leave you with a funny. You know, people were saying this is this has to be a parody. Nobody would seriously say that. Oh my God, you're getting taken in by a parody. Really? How do you know? I have been taken in by parodies, but I've also thought that things couldn't possibly be real that were absolutely sincerely offered. What can I tell you? I did see some evidence that what I'm about to show you did actually show up on some pages dedicated to LGBTQIA genders. But I think as soon as this got popular going around Instagram and Twitter, they took it down out of embarrassment because the entry for this thing on one of those wiki pages about what, you know, which are the valid genders, all of a sudden the page label is there, but the thing is gone. Oh, must be an outdated article. So I give you this week's gender. It's not even McGender. It is the best gender I've ever seen. Feast your eyes on Narcgender. This is Narcgender. It's got a really ugly flag with dark green, dark red, dark purple, and like gross yellow. Narcgender is a neurogender for individuals with narcissistic personality disorder whose gender is influenced by their NPD and or can only be understood in the context of having NPD. This label is exclusive to those with NPD. Self-diagnosed individuals are allowed to use it as long as they've done proper research on the disorder. These are the very same people that go after people like me and say, don't diagnose. You don't know. You're not a mental health professional. You can't diagnose. You don't know what you're talking about. You hate us. You're lying. Borderline's not like that. We love everybody just too much. Blah, 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 blah. But they can just self-diagnose because it gets them attention. That's totally fine. What will you do with your Narcgender? Answers on a postcard. That's the show. I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us. Do you like Disaffected? Do you like it enough to help pay for it? We'd love to have your support to grow and maintain this show. Donors get special access to our monthly Zoom Hangouts. They're off-camera and unscripted. We talk about what you want to talk about. There are 2 ways to join. Patreon users can go to patreon.com/disaffected or visit subscribestar.com/disaffected. You know how podcasters are always asking you to hit the subscribe button? Well, this is us asking you to take a minute right now and be sure you've hit subscribe on your favorite video platform. Click that notification bell too so you never miss our newest content. And don't forget to subscribe on audio too. We have audio-only content that you won't find on any video platform, so don't miss out. Twitter didn't like our old account, so we made a new one. Follow @disaffectedp, that's disaffected and the letter P, for show announcements and links. If you want our sass and snark, come see us on Getter @disaffectedpod.